Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the Katherine Dunham experience. Katherine Dunham led with her humanity. Please turn to the neighbor here on the right, to the left, behind you. Greet them, please, with your humanity. I don't think some of you got everyone here. Yes, even if you have to stand up. Yes, greet your neighbor. To those of you who are online, greet your neighbor. The culture is based upon call and response. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We also come in the spirit of joy. Everyone say joy. 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 And the Manda Yoruba we say ayo. 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 Joy. 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 Joy, joy, joy. And now you got it here. Today's company at the Whitney Museum. Give yourself a round of applause. I'm Reginald Yates, your moderator and host today for the Dunham Experience. I will be joined by the highly esteemed artist and educator, Ms. April Berry. Please give a round of applause. And by these wonderful master musicians. Give them a round of applause. I introduce you to Mr. Hassan Bakar. Give him a round. Mr. Famro Jibate. Give him a round of applause. Mr. Kevin Nathaniel. Give him. Mr. Urbano Sanchez. Mr. Michael Mustafa. They come to you in the traditions of the Jellies and Griots, beginning from the old Mali Empire, from the kingdoms of Sunjata and Mansa Musa, to the ancestors of Yoruba land, Benin and Togo, to the urgent voices of the Gullah, Geechee, who still hold the traditions of the ancestors in America to this day. This represents the root and the foundation of the Dunham legacy, Africa. I want to give thanks to the visionary Whitney Museum for this monumental exhibition, to Adrienne Edwards and her extraordinary team of curators, to the Alvin Ailey Dance Foundation, most notably Marion Colton, Eric Wright, Andrea Salvatore, Dominique Singer, Sylvia Waters, to the Allen Gray Family Foundation, and to all those who made it possible. So let us begin with an homage to creative genius. Katherine Dunham, born 1909, a year of political, social, and racial unrest. We see a country in transition with the emergence of the first civil rights organization in America, the NAACP. In the center, we see the distinguished W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, Mary Church Terrell, Mary White Ovington, standing in the gap for justice and equality. Within 2 decades, Katherine Dunham will rise to prominence to take her rightful place among the greatest thinkers, artists, and scholars of our time, to become one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. As an eminent anthropologist, artist, activist, righteous agitator, her work defied category. Jeffrey Holder once said, Katherine Dunham went to the back of God to bring forth the beauty, majesty, dignity, and genius of Black people, and boldly displayed it to the world. What she brought to the stage was not just performance, it was the performance of life, revealing the power of the body as a conduit for ancestral memory, truth, and healing. As we began with the sacred rhythms of Africa, she understood from her first revelatory discoveries that dance and music had the propensity to affirm life and was not a separate component, and that movement can transcend boundaries and barriers to transform the world. She would create a codified technique that would be a repository for African diaspora history and the culmination of her studies from classical ballet to Yanvalu, exalting the power of the breath, and reintroduced the contraction and release from its original source, Mother Africa. Yielding the ubiquitous manifesto and mantra in those who know it, Dunham technique, a way of life. The pure integration of mind, body, spirit, and soul. In popular culture, she was the authentic embodiment of James Brown's cultural anthem, "Say it loud." Say it loud. You got it. And in doing so, she made space for all of us. Does it resonate? She made space for all of us. Those of you who are seated here, she made space for you. Those of you online, she made space for you, passing on the mantle to Alvin Ailey so that he could make even greater space, to be our natural selves without apology. So whether you dance or not, you have been touched by the Dunham and Ailey spirit. Duke Ellington and Toni Morrison referred to art as being dangerous. Well, they understood to dare to take on the calling of being an artist, you must be obligated to tell the truth. Katherine Dunham lived in the truth and accepted the price and the consequences for standing on the right side of history. She understood to be an artist is to be political, informed, and involved. As she once said, she wasn't concerned about the hardships, for she was doing what she had to do, what she was destined to do, and accepted the fact that complacent women rarely make history. She, like Alvin Ailey, did not seek fame. They sought to make a difference. And even though they achieved enormous success, we cannot speak of triumph without speaking of tragedy. We cannot speak of accolades without speaking of struggle. As in 1956, when 20,000 South African women marched for the right to be, she was the personification of the theme, when you strike a woman, you are striking rock. This was a life, ladies and gentlemen, of resistance and resilience. Her superpower, she knew through it all that weeping may endure for a moment, but joy comes in the morning. And this is what a young Alvin Ailey witnessed at 15 at the Biltmore Theater in Los Angeles in 1945. The majesty and excellence of Black culture in motion that resulted in a relationship built upon a mutual understanding of divine purpose and conviction. For him, that is Alvin Ailey. She was the blueprint of endless possibilities. A note, the culture is based, again, upon call and response. So it is okay in this sacred space to say Ashe. Among the Ashanti, because we come from also the art of signifying. You may see them do Adawa, and they will raise two fingers, because some things in life are beyond words, and the English language is not sufficient for what we have to say. Ashe. Ashe. So it is okay in this space. Ashe. Call and response here. Yes. They both created an eternal continuum of artists, educators, scholars, critical thinkers, of whom are ancestors. It would be remiss not to mention and honor them. Most notably, John Pratt, Lavinia Williams-Yarborough, Sevilla Fort, Lucille Ellis, we speak your name. Joan Peters, Eartha Kitt, Josephine Premis, Vanoy Akins, Julie Robinson Belafonte, Harry Belafonte, Walter Nix, Frances Taylor Davis, Pearl Reynolds, Sidney Poitier, Janelle Stover, Carmencita Romero, Rosalie King, Madeline Preston, Tommy Gomez, Othala Dallas, Linwood Morris, Jean-Leon Destiné, Telly Beatty, Lewis Johnson, Jeffrey Holder, Arthur Mitchell, Donald McHale, Asadata Tafora, Ruth Beckford, Baba Jonash, Maya Angelou, Dr. Pearl Primus, Marie Brooks, Baba Chuck Davis, Theodore Jamison, Ned Williams Jr., Terry Carter, Clifford Fears, Ronnie Yao Marshall, Creighton Berry, Rex Nettleford, Beryl McBurney, Veve Clark, Laji Kamara, Montego Joe, Robert Beasley, Kimati Dinizulu, Joe Circus, Daryl Breddocks, Doris Bennett Glasper, Alicia Pierce, Tony K. Bambara, Dolores Brown, Dudley Williams, Miguel Gaudreau, Kelvin Retarier, Loretta Abbott, Ulysses Dove, Mary Kajiwara, Michelle Murray, Keith McDaniel, Michihisho Oka, Zia Narissa Bonds, Denise Jefferson, Carl Bailey, Kevin Brown, Danny Clark, Gary DeLoach, Alistair Butler, Calvin Hunt, E.J. Corrigan, Robert Tracy, Jeremiah Tatum, Barry Martin, Pepsi Betho, and countless others. A house not made with hands. We speak your name, we speak your name, we speak your name. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. The next voice that you will hear is Alvin Ailey.
Across the street from the Lawrence Armada was a theater called the Biltmore, a small legitimate theater. And then one day, there was this big poster up there that said Katherine Dunham, and you heard singers and dancers and musicians. A black woman. I didn't believe it. A black woman with some black men that did these wonderful costumes. Finally, the Katherine Dunham company arrived, and I was, here was this unbelievable creature, Katherine Dunham, who at that time was about 31, 32 years old, with her singers, dancers, and musicians, the most glorious costumes, the most wonderful scenery, and again an orchestra. And she herself came out in these ravishing costumes and danced and sang like something you cannot imagine. It was like my mother and Carmen all put together, you know, it was just a transcendent experience for me. And male dancers. I was very interested. I had never seen many males dance unless they were tap dancers. But Miss Dunham had a group of them, probably 15 male dancers who were just superb. Linwood Mars, Vanoy Aiken, among others, who of course, in those years were their prime, and their moves, I mean, the jumps, the agility, the sensuality of what they did just, again, blew me away. I mean, I was just taken into another realm. I couldn't believe that here are black people on a legitimate stage, downtown Los Angeles, among the white audiences, being appreciated. And the material, I mean, what she was doing was Afro-Caribbean, it was blues, it was spiritual, it touched something that had been Texas in me, and I never forgot it. And I used to hang around the stage door and peek in to see if I could see anybody. And a woman named Lucille Ellis, who is living today and is a good friend, she lives today in Chicago, and she was one of Miss Dunham's leading dancers. She would come out, and she would see me, and she said, "Well, boy, what are you doing out here?" You know. And I said, "Well, you know," she said, "Have you seen the show?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, you need to see it again." So she would arrange for the stage doorman to let me in and then show me how to get back into the house when the house wasn't filled, you know. So I saw the Dunham show in 3 weeks, and maybe about 8 times. So I was thrilled by the Dunham magic, by the magic of Katherine Dunham. It's an experience which touched me, influenced me, and my life would not have been the same without having encountered Miss Dunham. And I was 15.
Thank you. Please welcome Miss April Berry. Back in order, yes, absolutely. How is everyone? Wow. He was 15. 15, imagine, 15. He understood his destiny at 15. So how are you today, April?
I'm well.
After this wonderful class, I don't know if those who were in the class before this at 12 noon? Yes, as we start. And so you had the distinct honor of working and having a profound relationship with Mr. Ailey and Ms. Dunham. However, before we speak of this unique relationship, let's delve into your background as an artist and one who was mostly classically trained, and your entrance into the contemporary world.
Well,
Don't say it's a long story.
no, I won't say that. But it was a journey.
Yes,
It was
indeed.
a journey, a beautiful journey. I started in the classical traditions and European ballet. And then I went to the classical modern techniques of Lester Horton, Martha Graham, studied at the Dance Theatre of Harlem, studied with the great Mary Hingston, modern dance technique, and of course with Arthur Mitchell and Carl Shook, who co-founded the Dance Theatre of Harlem. Took ballet classes with Tanaki Leclerc. We have to mention all of these names because they are so
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's part of our ancestors. And the classical traditions in modern dance and ballet were a great foundation for me. Learning the culture and the history of all of those masters that taught me was incredible. And I think that my journey into contemporary dance came when I met Mr. Keith Lee, who was the first soloist with American Ballet Theatre, a Black American soloist dancer with American Ballet Theatre. He's still alive. And he introduced me to contemporary work, contemporary ballet, contemporary modern, contemporary jazz. And from there, I joined companies. I went to Switzerland and joined a ballet company in Switzerland. I went to Capitol Ballet in Washington, D.C., founded by Doris Jones and Claire Haywood, Jones Haywood School. I went to Garden State Ballet. I went to Long Island Ballet Theatre. I went to many ballet companies, but ended up auditioning for the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theatre 3 times. And the 3rd time was the charm. And that's where I met Alvin Ailey.
So what was your journey actually here transitioning into a fully contemporary company, in the sense of, did you feel that you mastered actually a codified modern technique, or you were still basically somewhere in the middle?
I was in the middle.
Yes.
Yes, I was in the middle. It takes a long time for a ballerina, a ballet dancer, to transition to modern dance techniques and contemporary techniques. And it's the weight. It's the weight that's different. It's the carriage of the body that's different. It's the mindset that's different. All of that goes into making that transition. And you have to be open to wanting to make that transition, and you have to have teachers that inspire you and guide you to make that transition, and directors, artistic directors, so who want to see you grow, like Alvin Ailey wanted to see his dancers develop and grow, and took the time to help make that happen. Timing is everything.
Yes.
Timing is everything in this business. So it took me, I would say, a good 3 years to get that under Keith Lee, that transitions from classical ballet, classical modern techniques into contemporary work.
Yes. So let's go into the studio. What was it like to work with Alvin Ailey himself? Because I can't assume that anyone met Alvin Ailey. And what was it like to learn the ballets and your whole process? And speak about the man himself.
That's a lot.
Yes.
Okay. I met Alvin in the City Center studio, upstairs in the studio at Cincy Center Theater. And that was my first encounter with him when I auditioned for the company there, and when I was taken that year into the company. And he was enormous to me. I mean, he was a giant. He was off the pages of the book that I had read about with his name in it. And so, of course, we were all nervous when we were taking the audition, but after the elimination of hundreds of girls, it came down to 3, and he took 3 of us that year in 1980 into the company. And we started rehearsing with him. Rehearsals in the studio with Alvin were very family-oriented. I'll just put it that way. He was very down to earth with his dancers. He was very accessible. He was very approachable. He took his shoes off in the studio and walked it around in his socks and worked. He had names and nicknames for each of us as dancers in the 80s. And he loved to give us Russian names. I don't know why, the Russian ballet names, Boritskova, and all of these kinds of names. He would always sing April in Paris to me because he loved Paris, and I was April, so he would sing April in Paris to me. Here, April in Paris, here she comes. So that was always a wonderful thing, a memory of Alvin with me. And his rehearsal process was very interesting. It wasn't the usual choreographer showing the step rehearsal. It was more like a feeling. He'd say, well, I want you to walk over here, this way. Give me this essence, this energy when you walk here. And he wouldn't necessarily show the step. He wants to see what you're going to bring to that walk. So we had rehearsal directors who would show us some of the technical steps. But Alvin's rehearsal was more like he was putting the humanity in you as a person first, and then wanted to see the technique. And that's an interesting way that, is not always happens with choreographers and dancers, even today. It's always about the step. And it wasn't about the step, even with Miss Dunham. It wasn't about the step. It was about, let me see you. Alvin used to say, the best thing about my movement is you in it. And so that's what he would go after in the rehearsal. Let me see you in my movement. Let me see you in this walk. Let me see you in this run. And it was hard for me to get that at first because I was coming from the ballet world, which is very formal. And he used to call me the ice princess, the ice queen from the neck up. Okay, can we break that face down? So it was, yeah. He wanted to see the light, the humanity, in all parts of your body, not just from the neck down. So that, yeah.
And so in transitioning to your relationship and meeting Miss Dunham, because that meant you had to also have a relationship with the earth.
Yes.
From toe shoes to the earth.
Yes, that's a big transition.
Yes. So take us into that experience.
Well, that was a long experience. Alvin said something to us, even before Miss Dunham came to work with us. He said, you have a year. And if you don't transition into what we think of as an Ailey dancer, then sometimes you get cut. And I came in with 3 ladies, and one of them did get cut after the first year. And so that transition, Alvin loved ballet like Miss Dunham loved ballet. So he, at that point in the 80s, wanted the arabesque. He wanted the penché, 180 degrees. He wanted the legs. He wanted the turns. But he didn't want the rigidness that went with it. Mm-hmm. So it took me a while to get out the torso moving, the torso moving a certain way and loosening up, because we don't use that torso that way in ballet. So it took me a while, I would say a good 6 months, but there was a lot of help there. We had great rehearsal directors, Masa Sumichaya, and of course Associate Artistic Director Mary Barnett, and we had a lot of people working with us and guiding us, right? Yes. So this is when you have people around you like that, it happens organically, and it doesn't take a lot of time because they know what they're doing with you.
Absolutely, yes. So let's move to the 1987 performance of The Magic of Katherine Dunham. And before we do so, I do want to recognize Dr. Gloria Van Scott in the audience. Yeah. For that extraordinary evening, first and foremost, to thank you for your work, and also your extraordinary work with Katherine Dunham, Louis Johnson, and so on Broadway, everywhere. Thank you for standing in the gap and being a gift to the dance community. Thank you. Yes. I thought we were at the opera. I hear this polite, just like here. Can we have a round of applause? Thank you. Yes. There is a time and place in New York for the hoity-toity crowd, but it's not here, all right? I want to recognize here Miss Mary Barnett, also here to audience. She was the former associate director of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. I want to say this, thank you for your work here with Lar Lubavitch, with Martha Graham, also standing in the gap for all of us. We stand on your shoulders. Thank you. And if you haven't seen the latest iteration of Survivors by the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, co-choreographed with Mr. Ailey, please go and see that. I want to recognize Miss Cleo Parker Robinson here. Please stand, yes. Yes, how are you? I want to say one thing to affirm you right now. In the marketplace of Senegal here, they call these women, they're market women, they call them drianke. But they are market women, but we take it even further. Women who are full of life and also know their purpose. You are leading us. We thank you again for standing in the gap. Cleo Parker Robinson, give her a hand. Yes, absolutely. So, in 1987, Mr. Ailey commissioned Ms. Dunham to present a full evening of extraordinary repertoire at City Center in New York in 3 decades of reconstructed work on the world stage. How many people, let me ask, were there in 1987? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Original sets and costumes by her husband, John Pratt. They were recreated by Tony Leslie James and Randy Barcelo. The original compositions were conducted by Tanya Leon, with Dr. Glory Van Scott as the project director, artistic coordinator, with the assistance of Julie Robinson Belafonte, Lucille Ellis, Pearl Reynolds, Vanoa Akins, Tommy Gomez, with musicians Moore Chum and Joe Circus, among others. It was presented in 3 acts, with 14 significant works consisting of Lagya, choreographed in 1937, Americana Suite, choreographed in 1938, Nanigo, 1938 also, Choros, choreographed in 1943, Shango, 1945, and Afrique and Progressions in 1950. So, Ms. Berry, can you take us into the interior from the rehearsals with all these notable individuals to the stage, and also the rehearsals, especially with Lagya and Shango?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a big question. So going back 35, 40 years in my memory of this evening, the 3-hour evening-length retrospective of Ms. Dunham's choreographies, there were about 14 ballets on that program, not counting progressions. We rehearsed for 6 weeks, which was a very short time to learn all of her incredible choreographies. As you said, the benchmark of artists that were sitting there in the studio to help guide us and coach us through these ballets that they had danced with the Dunham Company was extraordinary, led by Dr. Gloria Van Scott as the project director. And Ms. Dunham sitting at the table with her crystals and her flask and things on her table in the rehearsal studio with us, in the Ailey Studios. We came to the studio, well, not we, I wasn't there on the first day. The dancers, the Ailey dancers were there on the first day with her, and Ms. Dunham always started her rehearsals with conversation, socialization process, speaking to us about life and loss and grief and joy and the rites of passage. She didn't talk to us about dance. She didn't talk to us about her technique. She talked to us about humanity and our responsibility as human beings on this earth. And I wasn't there the first day that she sat the dancers down and spoke. I was at home. My mother had just passed away. And so I got a call from the Ailey organization saying, Ms. Dunham would like you to come to the studio. She wants you to be here. And I said, no, I'm on sabbatical right now. And the person on the phone said, no, no one says no to Ms. Dunham, so you need to come. So I came, and we started. And the first thing I remember was she gave me a card as she was talking to all the dancers. Somebody walked over, one of her dancers from the Dunham Company, and slipped me a card with Sevilla Fort on the front of the card. And Sevilla Fort was one of Ms. Dunham's dancers and teachers at the Dunham School for Arts and Humanities in New York. She taught Dunham technique and ballet and was a very great dancer herself, Sevilla Fort. And so I knew not to open that card until after rehearsal was over. I was instructed to do that. And we talked for a half an hour. Of course, Ailey dancers, we were ready to move, and we were fidgeting, and people were like, when are we going to start moving, as dancers do? And then we went to the bar, and there was a demonstrator, Michael Green, who she had brought from East St. Louis to demonstrate the technique at the bar. She wanted to recreate the technique on us as Ailey dancers because we had a different experience, instruction, growth process, technique than her East St. Louis dancers had had. And so she was recreating the technique on us as she was working with us on this evening-length retrospective. So that was a beautiful experience to have her recreate her technique in the studio on us as Ailey dancers. Doing the bar, doing the center floor work, doing the progressions, doing the cultural progression work. And we went that process every day. We always had class first, and then we went into the choreographies. And sometimes we would be in studios. I would be in a studio alone with Dr. Gloria Van Scott learning the spiritual, or we would be together in the studio learning a large ballet like Lagya or Shango. Those were the big ballets. Well, let me just start. Shango, I was a mambo figure in Shango. The Boy Possessed was Derek Whiter's. And this African sacred dance, Shango, was not really, we didn't have a hard rehearsal with it. That was very organic, that rehearsal. And, we had two mambo figures, me and Adrian Armstrong, who were the original mambos in that work. And Ms. Dunham had been the high priestess in the work, so she hadn't been the mambo figure. So we were told to improvise a lot. We weren't given steps. We were given a feeling and energy of what a mambo should walk like, should be like, the arm gestures, but we weren't given a step choreographically to do as a mambo figure. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because she wanted that to come organically from Black identity and the cultural aspect of the work, and see if we could come to it that way. So Shango didn't take a long rehearsal process. Lagya took a long rehearsal process, because Lagya was the centerpiece of the evening, and it was a Martinican ballet, and it was one of Miss Dunham's signature works. And she was very precious about that ballet. That ballet was very precious to her. And so she wanted it just so. And so that was a very tough rehearsal process for me, particularly because I was portraying her, the character of Lulus, in Lagya. And that ballet is about a woman who falls in love with a man. The man is then Alcide. His name is Alcide, and they have a courtship. It's a duet. There's a pas de deux in the middle of the ballet. There's a village scene. There are singers and drummers as part of that whole experience. There are Italian curtains. There's a whole set design along with that ballet. And so that took a long time to go from the studio to the stage. The staging was a whole nother thing when we got to the theater than what we did in the studio. Then in the middle of that dance, along with the duet, is also a kamboa scene, a charm dance, a possession scene. And so I had to learn how to release, relax, free myself, lose myself, and let Miss Dunham guide me through that mounting. And, she said, some nights when you perform this, you'll be acting, and some nights you should not be acting. So I will be there so you don't fall off the stage when you get taken and mounted. It was very scary, I have to tell you at first, very scary for someone like me who had come from a very, regimented, codified techniques. And to just let go and let somebody guide you so that you are taken by the rhythms, you're taken by the energy on the stage, of the visualization of the story, and you are carried. Julot is the evil figure in the ballet. There's a zombie scene with the graveyard that he comes and gets the convoi, the charm, to be able to hang over Lelouch, to take her into this trance-like state and for her to be mounted so that he can take control of her and she can then fall in love with him. And so the ballet ends with Agia, the fight, which is a Martinican fight between, and it's not like a capoeira, but there's similar movements. And the two men fight over the love of this woman, and Julot thinks that he's killed Alcide, my lover, and he comes towards me, and as he comes towards me, Alcide thinks that he killed Julot, sorry. And then as Alcide comes towards me, my lover, because he thinks Julot is dead, Julot gets up and stabs him in the back. And so he falls. It's a death scene. And Julot runs away, and I am left grieving over the body. Lelouch is left grieving over the body of her lover, Alcide, and that's how the curtain comes down, with her trembling and grieving over him and falling over his body. So it's a very dramatic ballet. Miss Dunham said, you must get these steps like I want them. She wanted certain things in the duet, the pas de deux. She wanted certain things in the possession, the convoi scene. She was very particular about where the feet went in the stage. As you go back and forth in the front of the stage, you start taking off your clothes, your jacket, your hat, the overskirt, and you're left with just your under dress, which is like a slip dress. So there's also working with the fabric and working with the costume to undress in that convoi, that possession scene. It was a lot. It was a lot. And the drummers, Mocham, as the Senegalese, he's from Senegal, the drummer, falling in front of the drums, moving away from the drums, moving back to the drums, and relating to the drummers and the rhythms. There was a lot to grow into there. A lot to grow into there. And I really feel that ballet because Miss Dunham trusted me. I said, why did you pick me for this ballet? What did you see in me? I was not a Dunham technique dancer. And I asked her later on that question, and she said, I saw sincerity in you, April. I saw human qualities that I thought Lelouch should have. I saw vulnerability in you. I saw an innocence and a naivete in you. And that's Lelouch. That was Lelouch. And so it wasn't about what you could dance, because we can teach steps, we can teach technique. We cannot teach these human traits. You either have them or you don't. So, right? So it's like, wow. No choreographer had ever said that to me. So, yeah.
Yes. So let's go to a few of the images you see in front of you there. And I do want to give honor to the dancers who performed that evening. So I'll give it to you, Ms. Berry.
Okay. Well, there is Desmond Richardson on this side. Desiree Vlad is next to him. Raquel Chavez is next to her. And Christopher Huggins is on the end.
And the ballet itself?
The ballet is Choros.
Yes. And this was commissioned by Mr. Ailey in 1972 and re-entered in 1987. Next image, please.
This is Rodney Nugent and I, with Kevin Brown in the background and Max Luna And Daniel Clark is hidden behind there.
Could you describe what's happening in this image?
This is where we're having Majumba. We're doing the Majumba, which is the part of the village. The villagers are getting around, and we're all celebrating. We're having a gay time together in the celebration of us coming together, me and Alcide, as lovers, and hopefully through marriage. And we're celebrating, yeah.
Next image, please.
This is Nanigo, and there were 8 men in all-male Nanigo, along with Joe Circus, who was the drummer, who got up off the drums and led as the elder movement as well, and danced in Nanigo. But this is in the front row, Stephen Smith on this side. Carl Bailey is in the middle. And there's a glare. Leonard Meek is the third gentleman in the front. And then behind them is Andre Tyson, Gary DeLoach, Kevin Brown, and Daniel Clark. The only person who's missing in this image is Rodney Nugent, who has also played Alcide, my lover in Alagia, and he's not photographed in this image, but he was in Nanigo as well.
Yes. And the next image.
This is me and Shango as a mambo figure. Yes, and that was the poster for that year.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. Let me ask you this. How did, after all of this was over, how was your work and your artistry informed versus when you were working just with the Ailey Company? And also, how did you become certified as a master teacher of the Dunham technique?
Yeah, that's an interesting story because I didn't get certified till after I left the Ailey Company. I continued to work with Ms. Dunham as a guest artist. She would call me every now and then to do some guest appearances with just the Kamboasine from Lagia at different theaters that she would have her awards, honors. They would celebrate her as a living legend, and she would ask me to come and do just the Kamboasine from Lagia with different people, with different drummers that would come and drum. I remember Francisco Aguabella came and drummed once in LA when we were doing something at a conference there with the Kamboasine from Lagia. Yeah, it was incredible. Mocham, of course, came and drummed for the IBD, International Black Dance Conference, in Denver with Cleo Parker Robinson, and we did it there.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I started to do these guest things with her after I left the Ailey Company, and then she said, April, you need to get certified. So, and this was way before the Certification Institute was adopted in the early 90s. And so she wanted to certify me personally. So she said, I want Ronnie Yao Marshall to mentor with you. And I was teaching at Denison University at that time. I was an artist in residence there in Ohio. And she said, I'm going to send Ronnie Yao to you, and he's going to mentor you as we get you on the path to certification with the Dunham technique. But you have to do your field research. You have to go to a country and do field research. You cannot get certified without it. So she said, think of where you want to go. Your mother's from Jamaica, West Indies. Do you want to go there? There's Haiti, of course, where I went. And I said, no, I think I want to go to Cuba. So that's where I went to do my field research, Cuba. Went to Havana, Matanzas, and Santiago. And studied there with the folkloric school and with the popular school, and then went into the hills and the countryside, and did a lot of work with different entities there. Came back and did a concert called Cuban Impressions, because I had a research grant to go to Cuba to do this from the Denison University to do this study. And I came back and had to do a performance to show what the grant had covered. And so I did a concert evening length called Cuban Impressions with poetry, song, movement, the traditional Risha dances, the popular dances. And yeah, it was great. So Ms. Dunham knew that I did that. She saw the video. And we did some other deep work, conversations, hotel rooms with drummers, rhythms. I learned the rhythms in Cuba also, and the songs that went with the dances. So it was, it was a process about, I would say, 3.5, 4 years, working with Ms. Dunham back and forth with these different journeys and pathways. And then, yeah, she certified me with a piece of paper that said you are certified as a master instructor because you've danced my choreography with a major company, Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. And that's what really makes a master teacher, that you either dance with the Dunham Company as a Dunham dancer, or you dance with a major company like Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, her choreographies. That's what makes a master instructor. And then you've done the work on top of it at another country with the research. So all of that makes a master teacher. There are certified teachers in Dunham, but it's different because they don't have the opportunity and the blessings that we had to have danced Ms. Dunham's choreographies with a major company. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's give her a round of applause here. So what last words can you give the audience for those who are developing as far as artists are concerned or their artistry, and those who are already in professional companies, especially from the knowledge that you have from Alvin Ailey and Ms. Dunham?
Look, I had to write this down because there was so much that I learned from Alvin and from Ms. Dunham that I just, last night I had to write this down. They were incredible human beings. I don't even think of them as icons. They were humane beings. Their humanity was enormous. I've never seen the likes of it since. And I have to say that I was so blessed to have lived during a time when they were alive and when I got to work with them in the studio personally and got to go out with them socially. I remember times with Alvin in Paris, and he'd say, let's go down the street, let's go to a shop, or let's go sit in a cafe, you know? Or, I mean, they're just down-to-earth human beings. And so when I think of what I learned and the legacy that I took from them, I'll tell you, this is what I took away, okay? 2 great artists, 2 great human beings. It's important to be able to receive as well as to give. You cannot give to others what you don't already have within yourself. Self-awareness, integrity, respect, trust, generosity, these are all qualities they had. Commitment, courage, resilience, persistence, determination, discernment, love, self-love, and the ability to, again, receive as well as give constructive criticism. Social justice and activism as a practice and as a way of living every day, not when it's convenient. All of these are muscles that are important, I learned from them, to develop as becoming an artist. Understanding Black identity, traditions, connectivity, and solidarity, and celebrating Black culture and the Black experience. Particularly from Ms. Dunham, I learned strengthening in synchronicity your physical, intellectual, mental, emotional, and spiritual capacities. And finally, both Alvin and Ms. Dunham, I took away from them as examples. To know who we were informs us about who we are and who we can become. You know, their work was so important. And they told us when we were working with them to study history, to receive and view historical works of art, do cultural research, read about the work of important cultural figures in the arts. and extremely important in the development of an artist.
Wonderful, yes. I think we have time for maybe one question, a comment from the audience. Yes, sir. There's a microphone there, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Namaste. It's so overwhelming what you have said. For those of us who were blessed to have the opportunity to meet Miss Dunham, speak with her, like myself, and Dr. Alvin Ailey also, speak with him just walking down the street. We're very blessed. I don't know how many other people here had that opportunity. But listening to Sister April and you, Doctor, it just brought back all these memories, these moments that I was blessed to have 45 years ago. And Miss Dunham, a little like 30, I first met her in 1994, 93. I was working on a production in Having Our Say in New York City. And a colleague, friend, worked with her, and I got them tickets to go see the play. And took them backstage to meet all the actresses. And they were just seeing those women who were proficient and very qualified in their craft as actresses, give her the respect and humbleness of being in her presence. I mean, some great sisters who have passed away now, like her ancestors. It's just, we need to have this wisdom in the school system and education system, because so many dancers, young dancers coming up and even older dancers, are ignorant of this history and foundation, sacred foundation that they stand on. So I'm humbled to be here this afternoon as Dr. April's guest, but it certainly brings in my dear friend and sister, Dr. Gloria Van Scott, who has kept on this legacy, educating the public about the greatness of Miss Dunham. And so we got to find a way of getting this in the school system of the United States of America and globally. So I thank you, Oshegoni, and it was a blessing, blessed moment to be here with you all this afternoon.
Thank you. Yes. I'm going to give you, it's coming down. Yes.
When? Is it on? No, no. Can you hear me? Now I can hear you, so it's on. When I sit here, I feel like I'm a piece of walking history, but in a good way. One is born to do various things in one's life. And I go back and think about me and why I wound up doing the things that I did for Miss Dunham and moving things away in terms of dance. I had an opportunity to work with George Balanchine and Arthur Mitchell. Balanchine wanted me to stop doing Dunham technique, don't do this, don't do that, don't act, don't sing, just become principal dancer. And he was going to create these ballets for him. And I was a kid, and I looked at him and I said, I thank you very much, Mr. Balanchine, but I love doing the Dunham. I love doing this, and all those things feed me. One thing would not feed me. And of course, critics say, my God, she let go of that. Yes, I let go of that because historically I was supposed to. If I had done that with Balanchine and just worked with him, I never would have done all the things I did for Miss Dunham, which I was supposed to do. I didn't know it at the time, but the powers that be, they knew. And so therefore I didn't veer away from something. And then when Ailey Company is going to do the dancing, the magic of Katherine Dunham, And I meet this kid, April, and I look at her, I said, I like that kid. That's a good kid, you know. Besides being a beautiful dancer, I was saying, I like that kid. And so when she was going to dance Aki, I was delighted because she had, and I could see it, within her, she had the blessings from Miss Dunham, but she also had blessings she was born with to make those things connect and to produce and do what Miss Dunham wanted for that ballet in order to give it to us as gifts. That's how you have to look at it. Everything that I've done, I've considered, it's a gift when I see how someone has flourished as a result. That's what a gift is. A gift is not hold it to me. That means nothing. A gift is like, here, you know, Reginald so-and-so, or, you know, April this, or whatever, and the drummers. I told someone, I said, you know something? The pulse of any human being is the drum. No other instrument can carry that life force back, forth, up, down, around. And when you feel it, you know you're still alive. What does the doctor do with a stethoscope? When you're going like this, I'm near death, I'm near death. Oh, no, she's not. I hear the heart beating. That's the beat. So what I'm saying is these things are here for you. They're here for you for a reason. And I am so delighted that I've come here today. And see, that's my little baby kid, she is, you know, and to be here. She was dancing August so beautifully. And then when I taught her spirituals, and I said, so Alvin's going to come in the room, we're going to watch. I said, no, you get out. I'm going to deal with this child myself. And so when I taught her spirituals, she was like, just honey in it. And the day before I taught it to her, and I danced spirituals in the Dunham Company, the day before, Miss Dunham said, well, Glory, you've got to teach it to April, you know, teach spirituals to her. I said, Miss Dunham, I don't like teaching dance. Yeah, dance I like teaching, but not teaching choreography. I don't like recreating. And she said, oh, but I said, I don't even remember. She said, oh, you'll remember. And I said, no, I won't remember. Yeah, you will remember. So I'm going to try to go home. Miss Dunham has a hold of me. When she grabs a hold of you, you don't get loose. So she had a hold of me. She said, come with me to the apartment. I did. And I'm lying on the floor on a rug. She's watching the television. The news is coming on. And I'm there, and I said, I don't even remember the music. She said, I said, what are you doing? And then next thing you know, I'm down there going, hypnotic. I mean, she got all the music suddenly came back to me, and I said, oh my God. Then I get up and I said, yes. All right, when I come to rehearsal the next day, April's going to learn because all of a sudden it flooded back in my head. She had magic.
They're asking you to say something. I'm sitting here smiling from my heart, through my body, through my eyes, through no one can see them, but they're all for you, dear. You don't only belong to Dr. Glory, you belong to me, you know, and I think this is quite the occasion to celebrate you as you celebrate our ancestors. Thank you very much.
Oh my, that is, you belong to me too. This is, I mean, really, seeing Mary Barnett, Glory, and Scott, I mean, to be with you all, you've inspired me to run my company for 54 years. For 54 years. And I have to tell you, being there for the magic of Katherine Dunham and being there watching rehearsals, and there was an entourage there with Glory. There was Lucille Ellis and Tommy Gomez and Vanoy and so many of the dancers that all were very, very, very involved in the process. And I learned from that. I learned from it. And then to know that you were chosen and to know that you had not been a Dunham dancer. And I love that. Now, I question myself, how could a dancer who was not a Dunham dancer be able to handle that? And it was because she reached your soul. And I got to experience that not once, not twice, but many times. And you were so trusting and so open, and I think dancers don't learn to do that as much. And I think that you have something so great to teach right now. You are beyond a master teacher, and I thank you, and I thank our doctor today. And I thank you for being able to support me in carrying on the Dunham technique and the Dunham legacy with choros and Barrel House Blues and all of the work. And I thank my Lisa there and my dancers in the front who have been the muses for me as well to create the work. And so, and Valerie here to write it and be the scholars and the musicians who touch our souls, you know, because it is Marciam and all of you that give us the, you open the gateway, you open it so we can enter those places that are sacred and powerful and courageous, and we thank you. And I say Ashe.
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 So we thank everyone. So one thing that we have learned, Alvin Ailey, Katherine Dunham led with their humanity. It was not about a step. And foremost, their great and unbridled compassion and love. Love, everyone say love.
Love.
We entered the space with joy. We will end with joy. Our musicians, Mr. Kevin Nathaniel first, bless us. Come out and bless us. Yes, yes. Come out and bless us. Mr. Kevin Nathaniel, musician. Round of applause for our musicians. Miss April Berry.
our artistic mother and father, Miss Katherine Dunham, our artistic mother, our artistic father, Alvin Ailey. Bless them, praise them, keep their legacies and names alive and their work. Thank you.
Thank you again.